Ah, well, that's good. Tell you what though, this experience has put me in the mood for some more Resident Evil. How about it? Let's look at every mainline game in the series to not only celebrate the anniversary, but also the release of Resident Evil 8 later this year. To keep it fair though, I'll look at the most updated release of each game. So next time we'll be looking at the critically acclaimed Resident Evil 2 remake.
You stupid fuck.
Resident Evil.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Resident Evil Retrospective. The original Resident Evil left its mark on the gaming industry back in 1996, leaving some pretty big shoes to fill for the sequel. Many would say it succeeded. Resident Evil 2 started development just 1 month after the release of the original game. However, this version would not be the one released to the masses. Resident Evil 1.5, as it was later named by the community, had many drastic differences to the final product. The basic premise was still the same: an outbreak of the virus seen in Resident Evil 1 spreading around Raccoon City, but the map, plot details, and even one of the main characters were entirely scrapped, as the team, including the new director Hideki Kamiya, felt the game wasn't living up to expectations. Shinji Mikami even left the role of producer at this stage, but asked if he could still see monthly builds of the game to see how it was developing. Eventually though, Resident Evil 2 was released in 1998, and everyone collectively loved it. The game was a massive success, and firmly planted Resident Evil as one of Capcom's top franchises alongside Street Fighter. However, after the release of Resident Evil Remake in 2002, the main question on everyone's minds was, when would RE2 get the same treatment? And at E3 2018, the people got their wish, with some fairly positive responses. Well, I already told you how much of a success Resident Evil 2 was upon release. So let's see how the remake stacks up. This is Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Resident Evil 2.
The game opens with the average evening for any American truck driver.
Oh, shit.
The driver then gets out of his truck to check the body, and he panics on how he's just killed a person. He doesn't have to worry about that for long though, as the dead woman rises once more, and we cut to your chosen character. In the same vein as Resident Evil 1, you have a choice in which character you pick at the start of the game. Either Leon S. Kennedy, rookie cop of the Raccoon City Police Department, or Claire Redfield, who's trying to find her lost brother Chris, who's probably fallen in a fucking ditch somewhere. Thankfully, unlike RE1, the characters aren't as one-sided. Both get all the same items, item slots, and maximum health. The main difference these two have are their unique story bits, and a different arsenal. I will say though, I personally prefer Leon, not only for his dorky personality, but I also favor his selection of weapons over Claire's. After their short introduction, your chosen character arrives at a gas station just outside Raccoon City, but something seems off. The place is a mess, and there's a police officer injured. After further investigation, your character comes across a zombie tearing into a different officer. You dispose of it quickly and escape, when more zombies start crawling out of the woodwork. Just as you leave though, you meet up with the opposite character, and you both escape the gas station via car. Both Leon and Claire have a chat on the way to Raccoon City, in which we learn it's Leon's first day on the job, Jesus Christ. They make it to Raccoon City, but are quickly separated by the truck driver from earlier ramming into an oil tanker. Leon and Claire call out to each other, saying they should meet up at the Raccoon City police station. After navigating your character through the destroyed city, you make it to a destination. Now that we're in the police station, I'll start going over some of the gameplay stuff, and wow, we have came a long way from 2002, haven't we? The first clear difference is we don't have the classic fixed camera angles of the older games. We instead have a more modern over-the-shoulder camera system that was first introduced in Resident Evil 4. The camera may suggest a modern zombie game, but RE2 still has most of the staples of the first. Limited items, a select amount of slots for your items, and any enemy can be a threat. Though, ink ribbons are now removed, unless you want to play on the hardcore difficulty, which I always found strange. Now, back to the story. From the main hall of the police station, you see an officer under attack in East Hallway. You head over there, but are too late to witness him being torn in half, with a group of zombies swarming the hallway, and Mother of God! The zombies in RE2 Remake are so resilient compared to the first game. Trying to take them all out is such a waste of ammo. I found myself kneecapping most of them just to get around. Your character quickly escapes the hallway, but is caught by a zombie at the last minute. This is when my main man Marvin appears, saving you and giving your first main objective. The other officer was looking for a way out of the station. Apparently, if you slot 3 medallions into this statue, an exit will open underneath it. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? With that, Leon/Claire head off through the police station in search of the medallions. Like in the RE1 review, I'll focus on one character, then bring up the others' differences as we go. This time I will be focusing on Claire. I may prefer Leon, but I'll explain my reasoning later in the video. The Lion Medallion is located at the top of the main hall, which is neat. All of them have a little puzzle to complete beforehand, but the solutions are given to you in the notepad that the dead officer had. In terms of the police station as a whole, it's interesting. Shares a few design motifs with the mansion, as the police station is a converted museum. The police station also doesn't have many puzzles that are required for progression, which is disappointing. A lot of it is go here with item A to unlock route B, with puzzles mainly being used for optional stuff, such as inventory expansions or upgrades to your weapons, both firsts for the series. I love both of these new additions to make you feel more prepared as you progress. It's just a shame that most of the puzzles aren't connected to major items. Your journey through the station takes you around the west side, encountering more zombies, a spade key that you can use to get back to the main hall with, and this sequence puzzle that nets you a keypad for the armory. My god, I'm terrible at these. You also notice an eerie creature outside one of the windows. Following this path takes you to the library, where the main man, Marvin, calls you, saying he's got something important. So you rush over. Marvin shows you that the opposite character has made it to the station, and you head over to the east side to find them. On the way, we also start to see the trend of helicopter pilots never getting much luck in this series. Why do I feel that this is some sort of curse caused by Brad? Outside, both characters have a quick exchange before an explosion attracts more zombies, making the other character flee. Your character, though, is able to get the bolt cutters, allowing you to explore more of the station. Mainly, you can turn off this valve, allowing you to pass a burst pipe on the 3rd floor. It's also at this stage you can unlock your second weapon, a grenade launcher for Claire and a shotgun for Leon. And you'll need it as soon on the 3rd floor you'll find... This is a Licker, RE2's poster boy. Lickers are also RE2's version of the Hunter. They're the most nimble enemy in the game, have high damaging attacks, and as their name suggests, use their tongue as a long-reaching weapon. Unlike the Hunters though, Lickers don't have a one-shot attack, but also have a weakness. They're blind as bats. While terrifying in their own right, you'll never get me to fear a Licker like I do a Hunter. We are rewarded though after that showdown, as the next room over contains the Unicorn Medallion and leads back to the library. The final medallion needs a little bit extra work to get. Using the bolt cutters you can access the supply room, in which you can get the electronic gadget. Combine that with the battery in the STARS office, and you can make C4 to blast a hole in the wall to get it. With that, you have all 3 medallions, and can open up the secret passage. Both characters try to bring Marvin along, but he refuses as he's slowly succumbing to infection. Through the underground passage is a machinery room. As Claire, you end up running into a little girl, but before Claire can ask any more questions, she is ambushed by this horrifying creature, whereas Leon just gets smacked about for a bit. More details of this monster are spoilers, so for now we're just going to call this thing G1, and it's by far one of the best bosses we've seen in the series thus far. G1 chases you around this small arena, trying to attack you with a lead pipe. G1 can be easy to avoid despite this though, as its attacks aren't that accurate, almost as if the man inside is fighting his infection. Once his third eye pops out though, he becomes way more aggressive. Eventually you finish the hulking beast, with him plummeting over a railing. This boss is frantic, unlike anything we've fought before in the series, and it's a testament to RE2's tone. It's not eerie like the first game, it's full-on panic as you deal with these more hectic encounters. Claire makes quick friends with the little girl, whose name is Sherry. She left her home during the start of the outbreak to search for her mother, and oh boy, we'll get to that bitch. Claire agrees to help the little girl, and the two progress to the underground parking garage. As Claire, you meet Brian Irons, a true bastard of a character that I don't care telling you will get his comeuppance later. He takes Sherry, and Claire swears that she'll find her. On Leon's end though, he is attacked by a Cerberus in the same garage, but is saved by the much more likable Ada Wong, the woman hinted to in RE1. Ada claims to be a government agent who is inspecting Umbrella, and almost immediately Leon trusts her. A trait I love, but also hate about our little boy. Both characters to progress need to go through the rest of the parking garage. It is a footnote on your journey, but I will give it credit. The dark, industrial look makes the parking garage fairly tense, especially for Claire, who has to deal with lickers instead of Cerberuses. Well, I can at least distract myself though by looting the dead. Oh look, a key! Using the diamond key as Claire, you're able to take a private elevator up to Brian Irons' office. There she spots a key card locked behind a gate needing electronic parts. In a similar vein, Leon uses the diamond key to get back into the police station's east side. Before that though, Leon can check the cells, where he'll find Ben, a news reporter who's been investigating Brian Irons. He pleads for Leon to let him out in exchange for his keycard, but a mysterious hand bursts through the wall, killing him instantly. To get the keycard, Leon also needs to find electronic parts to open the gate, which leads to the game's second third. The second electronic part is located in the same place for both characters, the clock tower. Claire's first electronic part is located on the third floor, whereas Leon's is located back in the garage. Once the first electronic part is claimed, you'll need to head to the roof, unless you go downstairs for the optional dongle key and the worst jump scare in the game. On the roof, you'll need to run around to put out a fire surrounding the crashed helicopter from earlier, which isn't that difficult. However, once you try and pass the helicopter...
Hey Mike, you finished the RE2 review yet? Mike? Where the hell is he? Mike?
Oh boy, here we go. This, everyone, is Mr. X. Mr. X was an enemy exclusive to a second playthrough of the original RE2. He'd show up in certain areas of the game to catch you off guard or give you a bit of a jump. But he has been taking all the vitamins since 1998. He is now way faster and can hit like a truck. The main terrifying part, though, is from this interaction, Mr. X is now present for the rest of the game. He wanders the police station looking for you the entire time. From this, the rest of the police station's mood changes. Before, it was being cautious, but not being afraid to let loose some ammo on a zombie. Now, a simple gunshot can cause Mr. X to sprint across the station like a bullet train. If you manage to avoid Mr. X though, you can make your way to the clock tower by moving around some gears, including one you find in the east storage room. Again, not that difficult of a puzzle. With that, both characters head back to their specific terminals and slot in the electronic parts. Then you have to complete a short electrical puzzle. These puzzles aren't that difficult, however, but I won't lie, I did take to them like a toddler attempting a shape puzzle. After that, both characters have their own exclusive sections, so we'll focus on Claire's first. Claire gets past the gate and claims the keycard. As she does, the devil himself calls the office. Iron demands Claire bring Sherry's locket or he'll kill Sherry. It's at this point we actually cut to Sherry. Hot take, this is the scariest part of the game to me. As Sherry, you attempt to escape the orphanage. This section starts off with a quick assortment of puzzles, one of which is actually a toddler's toy this time. After that, you make your way around the orphanage, looking for an exit. Eventually, you get the keys from Irons, but now you have to hide from him. Despite there being no standard Resident Evil tropes in this section, you can somehow reach the tense heights of Mr. X. It truly shows how defenselessness can create tension in horror games. Despite your efforts though, Brian catches Sherry, but the G1 we fought before appears, now mutated, going by G2, then proceeds to give Iron a nice deep throat before we cut back to Claire. Claire then rushes towards the orphanage to find Sherry, which she thankfully is able to do, but not before Irons gets his so good comeuppance.
Get off me! Oh my god!
Once we find Sherry though, Mr. X appears again, chasing them to a service elevator. Mr. X starts tearing into the elevator, but G2 shows up, ripping Mr. X in fucking half. This then causes the elevator to collapse. On Leon's end, he uses the electronic parts to open the cell and takes the keycard. He also listens to a recording that Ben made, asking an Umbrella spokesperson about missing orphans, a secret lab under a city, and something called the G-Virus. As Leon tries to leave, Mr. X shows up, but Ada is able to put him down for the time being. Ada then leads Leon outside and takes him for a gun shop. It's here we can find a note from a familiar friend. After that, we meet the shop's owner, Kendo, dealing with his daughter, on the cusp of being turned. A really eye-opening moment to how this horror action game is a lot darker than it seems. After this, Ada quickly explains Umbrella to Leon, and the pair descend into a sewers when... Ah, mother of God, Mr. X, now this... If you want any better example of how much more chaotic and high-octane Resident Evil 2 is compared to the original, just look at some of these encounters. After blowing the crocodile to Kingdom Come, you and Ada head deeper into the sewers, where we meet Annette Birkin, one of Umbrella's scientists. Ada proclaims that she's here for the G-Virus, with Annette replying, "Fuck you," and shooting at Ada, with our good boy Leon coming in to take the hit. While Leon is knocked out, we take control of Ada in Leon's version of the Sherry section. Though, as much as I like Ada, her section pales in comparison. Pretty much it's standard gameplay, except you have a hacking gun that you use to solve some puzzles. Eventually, Ada catches up to Annette. She mentions Annette's husband, wondering if she killed him, and she replies by throwing the book at her. And by book, I mean heavy machinery. On Claire's end, Sherry runs away from G2 while she's incapacitated, when she wakes up and also meets Annette. She asks Claire where did William go, referring to G2, and you can probably put two and two together. We also find out that Annette is Sherry's mother. Surprising, both blonde-haired, blue-eyed females are connected.
Does that mean that her and Leon...
No! Now we can finally move on to a next major area of the game, the sewers, which is the same for both characters, with the goal being to solve this chess puzzle to either save Ada or Sherry. The sewers are very dank and depressing, but nothing you haven't seen before in Resident Evil. I'd say the best comparison so far would be the Residents, but the sewers are less focused on multiple puzzles and instead are a fetch quest to complete a single puzzle. This will lead you down to a supplies room to get the King and Queen plug, as well as the flamethrower or the spark shot. But on the way back, you'll run into... Oh god! These RG adults, what the little buggers William has been making become. They can be tanks in terms of damage, and have a poisonous grab, which is never fun. The only other plug you need to get now is the Rook plug, which you get by looping around the area in a weird fashion. You can also during this time make your way back up to the police station to get any missed items. And hey, it's Marvin! How you doing, buddy? You're looking a little bit worse for wear there. How about a boost? Once you're ready, you can complete the chest puzzle and head deeper into the sewers, completing a pressure puzzle to open the door to Ada/Sherry. Just as we complete it though, William G2 shows up for round 2. This fight feels a little similar to the first, only he's much more aggressive. To beat William, you pump damage into him until he's stunned, then, using a button, smack a crane into him. All you have to do is repeat the process till he's thrown into the abyss. G2 is another example of how much better bosses have gotten in the later entries. After that intense fight, Leon and Claire will help their respective companion character to a cable car, and make their way to the Nest, a massive umbrella facility located underneath the city. In the cable car, both characters interact with their companion. Claire confronts Sherry, who's been infected by William, hoping that Annette will have a cure. Meanwhile, Ada requests Leon to get a G-Virus sample, as she's been injured. This leads the pair to share a kiss that will make Leon hold on to feelings for way too long. Once the cable car docks, you can make your way through to the Nest. The Nest is an expanded version of the lab from RE1, though the Nest definitely got most of the budget. I mean, look how clean and futuristic it is compared to the Spencer lab. I know there's a 17-year difference in the games, but wow, the mansion was shit. Both characters are then given a wristband to allow them to access the facility with ID chips, and you head off. The first section of the Nest is standard zombie affair, with dark corridors, destroyed lounging areas, and lunch.
Please enjoy our tasty selection of healthy food.
At the end of the section, we find the second ID chip, and progress to a next area which, god damn it! Why? Why did Umbrella make another one of these Alright, let's get this over with. This entire section has been taken over by Plant 43. However, unlike its predecessor, who spread out and attacked with tentacles, Plant 43 infects targets, turning them into IVs. IVs have similar attack patterns to a traditional zombie, but are far more resilient. To kill them, you'll need to either take out the orange pustules in quick succession, or abuse their weakness to fire. These guys aren't in the game for long, but their slow shuffling and unholy clicking noises absolutely leave an impression, even though it seems clear that their inspiration comes from a different source. Oh, but that's okay. This is an actual good second entry in a franchise. Thank you. You're all too kind. To deal with Plant 43, you need to head multiple times through this looping area in order to make a herbicide, mainly focusing on this terminal in the control room. Here you can input shape-based codes, one solution being in the room itself, and the other stuck to the bottom of a trophy. This will open up a lab where you can make herbicide in a puzzle that took me too long in this playthrough. You then take said herbicide, freeze it in a different room, and you can finally get the third ID chip. I do love the design of this plant-infested section, but I've never really enjoyed it. The puzzle was never that interesting, and the amount of back and forth you have to do for one solution feels a bit tedious. Before we head on to the next section, let's see how Leon's doing.
Shit! Him again?
Okay, back to Claire. You make your way to the third section of the Nest, where you finally find out what's been going on, if you haven't figured it out already. But first off, I need to get these ready. So, in summary, William Birkin and Annette Birkin are scientists who work for Umbrella. William creates a more potent virus he calls the G virus. Unlike the T virus, the G virus can repair dead cells as well as reproduce, leading to monsters that are near unrecognizable as human. Case in point, the G adults from the sewers and Lisa Trevor from RE1, who was the first test subject. Sadly, higher-ups at Umbrella wanted to claim the G virus, as William threatened to sell. During the confrontation, William is killed, and the soldiers make off with his samples. Unbeknownst to them, though, William injects himself of some of the remaining G virus, mutating into G1, with Annette watching on, unable to kill him. William then proceeds to find and kill the soldiers, destroying the few G virus samples, that being ingested by a few rats, which spread the virus far and wide. And where is Sherry this whole time, you may ask? Being neglected in their apartment. Not only that, but the locket she has from her mother is actually the key to the G-virus antibodies, effectively making her a target. Those rewards are fully deserved. Either way, while we find out all of this, William attacks again, now in the G-free form, mortally injuring Annette, and the next boss fight ensues. This fight is great. It's an intense close quarters battle where you gotta pump as much damage as possible into William's eyeball weak points. One swipe from him does insane amounts of damage, so the fight truly tests your nerves. Sadly, it does have one flaw, but it's debatable if it's actually up to player error. Around the arena there are extra pieces of ammo, however I found it's mainly for weaker weapons. Hell, in Leon's campaign I had to run around quite a bit just to find something after I ran out. I will say though, this issue could just be me being terrible at this fight, but considering it's happened repeatedly, I'm not so sure. With perseverance, however, you defeat William, and can now make your way out of the nest. First off, with Claire, you return to Sherry, who's been cured thanks to Annette, who has a little bit of a redemption before dying from her injuries. Though I truly do not give a fuck. Before Sherry can say a proper goodbye, the self-destruct sequence is activated, thanks to our good boy Leon taking a sample. Speaking of Leon, after he defeats G-Free, he tries to save Annette, with her saying that Ada is actually an imposter. Like clockwork, he meets her at the central area and calls her out. The two have a standoff, but Annette shoots Ada, causing her and the sample to slip through Leon's fingers. Leon then begins his own escape from the self-destructing lab. Claire with Sherry begin rushing through the labs, looking for a way out, happening upon a service train. Claire then is able to contact Leon, telling him about the train. As Claire begins lowering the train lift, they're attacked by William once again, now in the monstrous G4 stage. This fight is also intense, but much more repetitive. The best strategy is to just run around the train and blast him with your newly acquired minigun. It doesn't take much for William to keel over. On Leon's end though, Mr. X shows up once again, chasing him through the exploding tunnels. Both of them are hit by a gas explosion, following onto a service elevator where Mr. X becomes the Super Tyrant. This fight is a much harder final battle compared to the G4. Tight arena, limited resources, and Mr. X can two-shot you with ease. Thankfully, once you deal enough damage, a mysterious stranger drops a rocket launcher, allowing you to finish it off for good. Leon then jumps onto a train meeting up with Claire, ending Resident Evil 2 Remake. Or so you'd think. As I said at the beginning of the review, RE2 allows you to pick between two characters who largely follow the same path. However, unlike RE1, where the only difference was character interactions, RE2 instead changes more depending on which character you play first. For example, for this review, I played Claire Scenario 1 and then proceeded to do Leon Scenario 2. Scenario 2 for a character intends to change the game's layout so it fits the other character's story, like starting outside the police station when the other character is meant to be inside. Scenario 2 also changes other things like difficulty, puzzle solutions, and Mr. X being around the entire time, my god. This is why I picked Leon to be my second scenario, since I prefer his weapons over Claire. By playing both scenarios, you will unlock the true final boss, William G5, a mass of tentacles that you have to shoot before he reaches you. Pray to God you have enough ammo. The scenario system is great, and to many would be an amazing feature, except it's debatedly RE2's biggest upset. You see, while the scenario system is implemented in this game, it almost seems half-assed, mainly because they don't change enough between both playthroughs. Technically, Leon should be behind Claire at all times, but items and bosses are the exact same except for each character's unique final boss. Comparing this with the original RE2, it's a massive disappointment. I haven't played the original yet, but the game completely changes the goals and bosses for each scenario, meaning other than one or two oversights, both scenarios feel like they take place at the same time. Seems like a downer to end this review on a complaint, but I felt I needed to mention it, since it's one of the community's biggest flaws with this remake. On that note though, it's one of the game's few complaints. Resident Evil 2 Remake is fantastic, an engaging zombie thriller with some of the best moments in the entire franchise. And just like Resident Evil 1 Remake, I think it's the definitive version of Resident Evil 2, unless you're interested in the original's better scenarios. But, to be honest, I still prefer the original. I think it's mainly down to the mansion setting. I just prefer it compared to the city setting of RE2. On that note, though, we're not leaving Raccoon City just yet. Join me next time, as we'll be looking at the much more controversial Resident Evil 3 Remake.
Leon?
We made it.
Just like I said we would.
Who's this?
This is Sherry.
Okay.